Cambridge Advanced Learning Dictionary and Thesaurus defines a capstone project as someone's greatest achievement or the greatest part of something. An incredibly important third ingredient is emotional intelligence. Leadership at Sheridan is all about building EQ, first with yourself and then with the world. I joined Sheridan College as a business executive administrative student in January 2020. Right now in my graduating semester, I am very lucky to have courses like event planning and project management. Learning the basics of these different fields is incredibly important. But in order to successfully complete the task and keep morale high and have positive work relationships, it requires a lot more than functional or knowledge-based skills. An incredibly important third ingredient is emotional intelligence. Leadership at Sheridan is all about building EQ, first with yourself and then with the world. In semester 1, I had a project with 4 or 5 other students where we had to talk about sex education. We divided the arguments between us and off we went. We were allocated more than enough time. But the weeks ran past us, and before we knew it, there was 1 week left. We were staring at the deadline with pretty much nothing in hand. This situation brought out an aggressive, unempathetic side of myself. We got the project done, but I learned some things about myself that I wasn't too proud of, and I wanted to work on it. I started on a good note. I was detail-oriented, I was meticulous, I delegated, I even showed initiative. But there were a few negative points as well. As a team leader, I did not keep consistent communication. That would have avoided the missing parts so close to the end. The lack of organization for all those other weeks following the day of distribution also placed a major setback to our group project. But most importantly, having better time management would have eliminated any last-minute anxiety or temper-fueled words or actions. It is important to analyze the past and learn from your mistakes, which is why I created the leadership spectrum. This is to figure out where I have reached with my personal skill building and also how I'm able to make them functional and helpful in a team environment. At this point, this group experience would be labeled at a level 2 minimum. We did whatever we needed to in order to complete the project. In the same semester, we continued with our presentation course. For the most part, we stayed in pretty much the same group since we were already acquainted, but we hadn't dealt with the issues that we had in the first presentation, so without realizing it, we carried it on to the second one. Once again, we found ourselves staring at the deadline with empty hands. In our group, one younger member was dealing with some personal struggles. We as a group had no idea what those were. All we knew were the symptoms of it. So, skipped classes, unanswered texts, but most importantly, the lack of assignment completion. It wasn't until the 11th hour that they came forward and shared their struggle. Being an immigrant is not easy. You are placed in a new system where up is down and down is up. It's a struggle that I'm very familiar with. That's exactly the conversation that I had. And then I started to notice things changing for the better. I'm not a miracle worker. In fact, it had nothing to do with me. They opened up about their struggles, and honestly, talking helps. Unfortunately, it was too late to make a difference for our project. If I created an environment at the beginning of the project where I practiced self-disclosure, maybe they would have come forward and spoken about their struggles a little bit sooner.
How about we let somebody else share? Harry, you have the floor.
No chance.
Harry.
No way.
Come on.
Come on.
Do the intro.
Why? No. Not gonna.
Harry,
What?
you have to do the sharing if you want the helping, okay?
Hello, Harry.
Math and I do not get along, but my Excel professor thrived on the excitement that he got from math. I guess that turned me off from the class altogether. It wasn't until my results from the first test that I realized that my disdain for the subject is actually costing me my grade. So I needed to manage my strong abhorrence for the subject, and I needed to find a way to encourage myself. I picked up on this particular habit of mine. During the year, if someone explained something to me, it would take me ages to learn it, mostly because I was too distracted to pay attention. But if I'm in a rush and I have a deadline, I can learn an entire chapter's worth of information in under 20 minutes. Learning is not my issue. Keeping focus is. The moment I figured this out, I had a new study plan. I kept a timer with me. I gave myself an hour to do the work. If I didn't finish, I would have to wait for the next time I scheduled it. So with this study plan, I learned to manage my self-discouragement, my bad habits, and in a way, my time. SMART goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. It's easy to say, but difficult to practice. When the pandemic first started, I decided to take a little bit more interest in my YouTube channel. I started by wanting to put out content every Sunday. That didn't work, so I pushed it to Monday. That didn't work either. Looking back, I didn't actually have a plan. So why don't we do one together? Specific. Post every Sunday night. Measurable. Create 2 videos every week. Post one and premiere the other one. That way, if I need a sick day or a self-care weekend, I can do so. Attainable. Since filming takes me a whole day and editing takes another, I will need to film on Friday and edit on Saturday. Realistic. Using the premiere option will keep consistency with publishing days and times. Time-bound. If I can keep up with the schedule for 4 weeks, then I have 2 months of content. Diversity in the workplace is incredibly important. Meeting diversity with race, religion, sexual orientation, or gender is just bare minimum. Diversity goes so much further than those initial assumptions. You remember the sex ed assignment? We had to create 2 arguments for either for sex ed or against it. The presentation time for this was about 5 minutes, so we could fake an opinion if we didn't agree with what you were saying. However, in a workplace where we will spend a lot of time preparing for a presentation and actually presenting, faking an opinion is not the most functional process. It's more effective to have a group of people who think and work completely differently from one another. Think of the Avengers. Every single one of them have completely different powers. Civil War is a clear indication that they all think completely differently from each other. But when it comes down to saving the universe, they're pretty successful most of the time-ish. That's not despite their differences, but because of it. If everyone had the same ability, the story would be incredibly boring. But, more importantly, the effectiveness rate of this group would lower. As much as I love the Hulk, having an entire Avengers team of Hulks is utterly pointless. We are all familiar with negative conflict, but positive conflict is not talked about as much. Have you ever sat with your team and had one of those, "Ooh, I never thought of that" moment? That is positive conflict. While working on a group project for my Microsoft publishing course, I had a lot of trouble understanding the instructions that were given to us. Unfortunately, most of us were also confused. It wasn't until we started chatting with one another that we realized that we picked up on different parts of those instructions. After almost an hour of back and forth, we finally agreed on what the instructions actually were. For the most part, we were correct. We even added more than what was necessary and got a grade that we were very proud of. It's small and even seems insignificant, but because we were able to put our differences to use, we were able to figure out the expectations of the assignment and go beyond them. We learned a few things about one another, especially each other's learning styles. Bringing out the leadership spectrum once again, this assignment earned a very favorable position at level 4, initiative. We used personal and external resources to bond with one another and successfully complete the project. This pandemic has made even the simplest 10 times more complicated. A few months ago, I had a presentation assignment with a group of other students that I posted on YouTube, just like this one. Under normal circumstances, I would have delegated the script writing, but I would have filmed and edited by myself. However, because of the pandemic, I wasn't able to do any of the filming. Being the person that I am, I wasn't gonna let some pandemic compromise on my creative ideas. And so I needed to educate some students very quickly on some videography tactics. I spent 2 days straight making personal video calls, video samples, and so many other things just to make sure that every single student understood exactly what they needed to do. For each person, that meant something completely different. Team facilitation is all about meeting the needs of each individual team member and trying to find comfortable positions in challenging moments. I think that was exactly the assistance I provided. Not to brag, but this assignment, I think, was the top hitter. On the leadership spectrum, I think we hit the ultimate level. We were the league. We used every resource to achieve success in both the project and our relationships, and even provided further assistance to remedy any miscalculations to the project design. I think the previous example would also fall under the creative problem solving category. But I've had small bursts of problem solving, especially during tests and assignments, and even in my personal life. It's impossible to know everything or anticipate everything. Creative problem solving is a reactionary skill. But like all skills, it can be improved with time, patience, and practice. Traditionally, managers, teachers, even parents would take the role of supervisor or officer. They would give an instruction and they would expect you to follow it. However, recent studies show that a more nurturing interaction between the coach or leader and the sub resulted in more positive outcomes. That is the difference between commanding and coaching. Good coaches use trust to build relationships and lead instead of giving orders. This is a process where they structure individuals who are dependent and transform them into something independent. I don't trust very easily, so coaches in my life are practically non-existent. But I've learned to replace my lack of trust and my lack of coaches with critical thinking skills. I've learned to kick my own butt. I think the official term for it is empowerment. I think more than any skill or relationship, my confidence has blossomed this semester. And with that, motivation and empowerment. I still have a long way to go before I can be Mel B or Superwoman, or best yet, future me. I'm learning to lead myself, but someday I know that I'm going to be a great coach for someone else. It's been quite the process going from semester 1 to my graduating semester. I've not only improved my communication skills, but my organization has greatly enhanced. I also mastered a few other things along the way. I think I've gotten more approachable. I'm definitely more determined. I'd like to think that I've always been open-minded, 100% talkative. I was born that way, baby, and I have the detention notes to prove it. I learned to share a little bit more of myself with people. I'd like to think that I'm empathetic. This course definitely has gotten me incredibly self-aware. What else? I'm passionate. I haven't yet figured out a solution to excel at time management, but I've come up with a temporary fix. Everyone has their strengths and everyone has their weaknesses. All I have to do is pair up with someone who is amazing with time, and I can help you out with anything else. Everything else. I'm excited to graduate. There's a whole world out there that I am ready to take out for a test drive. I don't want to make too solid of plans, things that don't bend, break, but this YouTube channel is definitely top on my list. I would like to one day start my own production company, and maybe down the road I would like to have a kid someday. I'll need leadership skills for all of it.